Andrew Johnson became president after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, a Democrat who ran with Lincoln on the so-called unity ticket. It was a tough time to be president. The divisions were deep. Congress would even impeach him, although the Senate did not convict. Andrew Johnson was born in Raleigh, North Carolina on December 29, 1808. He grew up poor and did not attend school. His father died when he was young, and at the age of 10, Andrew became an apprentice at a tailor shop. He was bound to this apprenticeship until he was 21 years old. The literacy he did have, he learned while working at the tailor shop. Johnson wasn't happy with the apprenticeship and he ran away. A $10 bounty was put on his head for his return. He fled and went to Carthage, North Carolina. But fearing capture, he would move to Lawrence, South Carolina. Later, he attempted to come to a deal with his former apprentice, but he could not. After a few more moves, he would end up in Greenville, Tennessee. He established a successful tailor business and married 16-year-old Eliza McCardle in 1827. He was 18. She was the daughter of a shoemaker. Elijah is actually the one who would teach Andrew mathematics and better writing skills. He would begin reading and even participating in debates at the Greenville College. His profitable business allowed him to hire help and buy real estate. Johnson also purchased slaves and owned about 10. He freed his slaves on August 8, 1863, and they remained with him as paid servants. His political career began as a city alderman and the mayor of Greenville. In 1835, he was elected to the Tennessee House of Representatives as a Democrat. He also joined the Tennessee militia and achieved the rank of colonel. After being elected to the Tennessee Senate, he sold his tailor business to concentrate on politics. In 1843, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. His wife would remain in Greenville. She did not like all the politics and all the interaction with people. Johnson certainly was not an abolitionist. He believed that slaves were property. He supported the war with Mexico in our outward western expansion. Not forgetting his past, he continued to attempt to do some kind of homesteading act to give 160 acres to people who would work it. He proposed a series of resolutions, but they failed each time. He also wanted to have senators elected by popular vote and abolish the Electoral College. He also wanted to limit a judge's tenure to 12 years. Johnson served 5 terms in the House. However, the Whigs redrew his seat so that he could not possibly win re-election. So he returned to Tennessee, and in 1853, he was elected governor. Like many governors at the time, he had little power, but the exposure made him a national figure. He had his eye on the 1856 presidential election, but he was never nominated. In 1857, he was elected to the Senate. In the Senate, he would continue to get his homesteading bill through, but to no avail. He opposed infrastructure bills and opposed sending troops to Utah to put down a revolt they were having there with the Mormons. The succession crisis kept growing, and Lincoln appointed Johnson as the military governor of Tennessee. Johnson attempted to eliminate rebel influences in the state. He even shut down pro-Confederate newspapers. He also demanded that public servants take a loyalty oath. At Johnson's request, the Emancipation Proclamation did not apply to Tennessee. In the 1864 elections, Lincoln did not run as a Republican, but rather as a National Unity Party candidate. Their pick for vice president was Andrew Johnson. The election of 1864 was a rout for Lincoln, at least in the electoral vote count. It was a little closer in the popular vote. Lincoln received 212 electoral votes, won 22 states, and won 55.1% of the popular vote. The McLean-Pendleton ticket received 21 electoral votes, won 3 states, and 44.9% of the popular vote, about a 400,000 vote difference. The South, of course, did not take part in this election. Johnson was vice president for a little over a month when Lincoln was shot. After becoming president, it was basically a one-issue theme: Reconstruction and balancing those who wanted to punish the South and those who wanted to just get on with it, just get on with normalcy. Johnson did want to provide amnesty for ex-rebels, but only if they held less than $20,000 in property. Coming from his poor background, he wanted anyone who owned over $20,000 in property to have to actually make a petition to apply to get their citizenship back. As states were slowly allowed to vote, they ended up voting the same officials who went for succession. It was really irritating many of the people in Congress. They even voted in the former Confederate state vice president, Alexander Stephens. Congress then refused to seat the Southern delegation. Johnson would continue having problems with Congress, particularly over states' rights, the slavery issue, and how to bring the Confederacy back into the Union. The conflict between the president and Congress came to a head. Johnson was going to get rid of the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton. So Congress passed the Tenure Act, making it illegal for the president to dismiss cabinet members without the approval of Congress. This, of course, was absolutely unconstitutional. To make a long story short, Congress decided to go ahead after Johnson decides he's going to go ahead and fire him anyway. Congress decides they're going to impeach him for violating the Tenure Act. The Senate, however, would not convict, not on any of the 11 charges. There were rumors of patronage and bribes and manipulation that Johnson tried to do to get senators to vote his way. Technically, it was only defeated. He was only not convicted by 1 vote. However, it really wasn't that close. Several senators said if it had really come to them and they were the ones that it was all resting on, they would have voted not to convict. Even though they had voted to convict, they said if it came down to them, they would not convict the president. Congress simply was trying to strip all powers away from the presidency. In the meantime, Southern states were passing legislation that was almost as bad as the old system that Congress was trying to get rid of. And Jackson was really taking no action in this. During all this havoc, we somehow managed to obtain Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, about $140 million in today's money. Johnson sought renomination for the presidency in the 1868 election, but on a 22nd ballot, Johnson only received 4 votes, all from Tennessee. After the presidency, he returned to Greenville for the first time in 8 years. He got bored, however, and he tried a few attempts either to get back into the House of Representatives or the Senate. He finally achieved this in 1875. The only former president to leave the presidency and go to the Senate. While visiting his daughter in 1875, he had a stroke and died on July 31st, 1875. Andrew Johnson lost most of his money due to a bank failure in 1873. He lost about $1.6 million in today's money. When he died, he was worth well less than $1 million. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for listening.